The door burst open at 0530 hours. Commander Dalton Garrett had exactly 3 seconds to process what he was seeing before his entire understanding of naval special warfare collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. The woman stood with her back to him, combat pants half-zipped, tactical shirt bunched in her hands. Her skin was pale in the fluorescent light of the women's locker room, a facility so new the paint smell still lingered in the corners. What made Garrett's breath catch wasn't her state of undress. He'd been a SEAL for 41 years. Modesty died somewhere around Hell Week. It was the ink. The tattoo covered her entire back, shoulder blade to shoulder blade, spine to ribs. Not the usual tribal nonsense or motivational garbage young sailors got after their first deployment. This was art. This was history. This was impossible. A SEAL trident, but not the standard issue. The eagle's wings spread wider, the anchor's flukes sharper, the pistol's barrel longer. The exact design used by the original members of SEAL Team 6 when it formed in 1980. Garrett had only seen this variant 11 times in his life. 8 of those men were dead. 2 were crippled. 1 had vanished in 1984. Beneath the trident, in precise military stencil, Wraith's Legacy, 1983. And below that, 2 letters that made Garrett's 63-year-old heart skip, J.W. "You gonna stand there all morning, Commander?" Emma Kane's voice cut through his shock. She turned, pulling the shirt over her head with practiced efficiency. "Or you gonna tell me why you're in the women's locker room?" Garrett's mouth worked soundlessly. His hands still gripped the classified folder he'd been searching for. In 4 decades of combat operations across 3 continents, he'd been shot twice, stabbed once, and blown up more times than he could count. Nothing had rattled him like this. That tattoo, his voice came out rougher than he intended. "Where did you get it?" Emma's eyes, gray like winter steel, locked onto his. She finished buttoning her uniform shirt with deliberate slowness. "From the only person who had the right to give it to me, sir." "Bullshit." The word escaped before Garrett could stop it. "That design, only 8 men were authorized. I knew every single one. You're too young to have J.W." Emma tapped her shoulder where the letters sat beneath the fabric. "Jonas Wraith. Ring a bell, Commander?" The folder slipped from Garrett's fingers. Papers scattered across the linoleum floor like autumn leaves. He grabbed the nearest bench for support. Jonas didn't have family. His voice sounded distant to his own ears. He died alone, 1984, training accident in the Philippines. Emma's smile held no warmth. He died in 2009, Montana, and he wasn't alone. That's impossible. So was surviving Operation Eagle Claw. So was being one of the founding members of DevGru. So was staying off the grid for 25 years after faking his death. Emma stepped closer. Even at 5'3", she radiated something that made Garrett's operator instincts scream warnings. "My grandfather specialized in impossible, Commander. He taught me everything he knew, including when to trust someone." She paused. "And when not to." The locker room door opened again. Master Chief Boone McKenzie filled the frame. 6'2", 240, muscles like anchor chain. Behind him, Senior Chief Vaughn Thorne and Chief Petty Officer Rourke Brennan crowded into view. "Sir?" Mackenzie's eyes flicked between Garrett and Emma. "Briefing starts in 5. You wanted everyone?" He stopped. His gaze had found Emma's shoulder, where her collar had shifted during movement. Just a glimpse of ink, just enough. "Holy Mary, Mother of God!" Brennan crossed himself. At 57, he was the youngest of the old guard, but his face had aged a decade in the last second. "That's not possible." Second person to say that this morning. Emma adjusted her collar. "You all want to keep telling me what's impossible? Or you want to hear about the mission?" Garrett found his voice. "Gentlemen, SCIF, now." The walk to the sensitive, compartmented information facility took 2 minutes. 2 minutes of charged silence. 2 minutes where Garrett's mind raced through possibilities. each more improbable than the last. Jonas Wraith had been his mentor, his savior, his friend, the man who'd taught him that honor mattered more than survival, the man who'd supposedly died in a training accident 40 years ago. Except he hadn't died. He'd lived, hidden, and apparently raised a granddaughter. The SCIF sat in the heart of the Coronado compound, a windowless concrete box designed to keep secrets in and everything else out. The five of them filed inside. Garrett sealed the door with a magnetic lock that weighed more than most men could bench press. The walls were bare except for a single flat-screen monitor. No decoration, no comfort, just four steel chairs around a steel table in a steel room. A place where hard truths lived and soft lies came to die. Garrett stood at the head of the table. Emma remained by the door, arms crossed. The three other SEALs sat, their faces showing various stages of confusion and disbelief. "Gentlemen," Garrett began, his command voice steady despite the earthquake in his chest. "This is Emma Kane, granddaughter of Jonas Wraith." Silence. Then chaos. Mackenzie shot to his feet. "Commander, with respect, Jonas had no documented family. His files were fabricated." Emma's voice cut clean through the protests. "His death was staged. He lived another 25 years under deep cover, investigating something that started in 1989 and got him killed 20 years later." "Prove it." Thorne's voice carried the skepticism of a man who'd spent 30 years in intelligence. "Anyone can claim lineage. Show us something real." Emma pulled a photograph from her cargo pocket, slid it across the table. Garrett leaned in. The image showed a young girl, maybe 11 or 12, standing next to a man in his late 60s. Mountain cabin in the background. The man held a rifle. The girl mirrored his shooting stance, small hands steady on a .22. The man's face was weathered but unmistakable. "Jonas." Garrett's finger trembled as it touched the photo. "That's him. Same scar through his left eyebrow. Same way he held his shoulders." 2008, Emma said. "Appalachian Mountains. He was teaching me windage calculation. Said the best snipers learn to read the trees before they read the instruments." Mackenzie grabbed the photo, studied it. His face went pale. "The rifle. That's a Remington 700, custom stock. I know this weapon. Jonas carried it in Grenada. The stock has a notch on the left side where he took shrapnel from a ricocheted round during the Point Celine's airfield assault," Emma finished. "October 25th, 1983. He told me the story 47 times. Said repetition bred perfection." The room went silent. Brennan spoke next, his voice careful. "If Jonas really was your grandfather, if he really lived until 2009, why come forward now? Why expose yourself after all this time?" Emma's expression hardened. "Because 6 men died in the last 4 months, all of them former Team 6, all of them from the 1989 Panama operation, all of them killed by a .338 Lapua Magnum round from 800 to 1,200 yards. Same signature my grandfather used. Same caliber, same range." She pulled a bullet from her other pocket. Brass gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Set it on the table with a soft clink that sounded like a death knell. "Jonas gave me this before he died. Said it was from his final operation. Said if I ever needed to prove who I was, this would do it. It's engraved." Garrett picked up the round, turned it, found the engraving along the casing. "For the Angel of Death, J.W., 1989. Angel of Death." Thorne's voice was barely a whisper. "That was the code name for the Panama target, the officer we were supposed to extract. But the op went wrong. 9 SEALs died. The intel was bad. Someone sold us out." Garrett's grip tightened on the bullet. "Jonas believed there was a traitor. He called them Archangel, spent 20 years trying to find proof. We all thought he was paranoid, thought the Philippines accident was fate catching up to conspiracy theories." "It wasn't an accident." Emma's voice carried absolute certainty. Jonas was murdered. Same person who betrayed Panama killed him when he got too close to the truth. And now that person is killing everyone else who was there. Everyone who might remember. Everyone who might put the pieces together. The monitor on the wall flickered to life. A woman's face appeared, early 50s, blonde hair pulled severe, eyes that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. Gentlemen, Miss Kane, Catherine Bellamy, CIA operations officer, spoke with the clipped precision of someone perpetually 3 steps ahead. I've been listening. Time to brief you on why you're really here. A map replaced her face. Eastern Europe, Carpathian Mountains, a compound highlighted in red. Dmitry Volkov, arms dealer, former KGB, current supplier to every terrorist organization with cash. He's been operating out of this facility for 6 years. Romanian government pretends not to notice. We pretend to respect their sovereignty. Everyone's happy. The image changed. Satellite photos, thermal imaging, guard rotations. 2 weeks ago, our signals intelligence intercepted a communication. Volkov is hosting a buyer. High value. Someone purchasing something worth enough to draw him out of his usual careful patterns. We believe that buyer is your archangel. Garrett's jaw clenched. You're using us as bait. I'm giving you a chance. Bellamy's voice held no apology. Your team, your op, your way. Infiltrate the compound. Identify the buyer. Extract or eliminate. Your call in the field. But we need positive ID on Archangel. And we need it before 6 more SEALs end up in flag-draped boxes. And the girl? Mackenzie jerked his chin toward Emma. She's not even qualified for... She's qualified. Garrett surprised himself with the conviction in his voice. If Jonas trained her, if she carries his legacy, she's more qualified than most operators I've worked with. He turned to Emma. But Commander Mackenzie has a point. You want on this team, you prove yourself. Same as anyone else. Emma's smile was sharp as a K-bar. Name the test, Commander. I'll pass it. The 1,000-yard range sat at the eastern edge of the base, where the Pacific wind came hard and salt-heavy off the ocean. 3 targets downrange, man-sized silhouettes, the kind that didn't forgive and didn't forget. Mackenzie set up first. At 61, he was still the team's designated marksman, had more confirmed kills than he had years alive. He settled behind the Barrett M107, a .50 caliber beast that could punch through engine blocks at a mile. The wind gauge read 15 miles per hour, variable, gusting. Temperature 93 degrees, heat shimmer rising off the sand like ghosts. 5 rounds, Garrett announced. Center mass, 2 minutes. Mackenzie's breathing slowed. In, out, in. The rifle spoke 5 times. Thunder rolled across the range. Downrange, the spotting scope showed 3 solid hits, 2 near misses. Professional. Solid. Exactly what you'd expect from a man who'd been doing this since Emma was in diapers. Your turn. Mackenzie stood, wiped sweat from his forehead. Let's see what Jonas really taught you. Emma approached the rifle. Didn't touch it yet. Walked in a circle around the shooting position. Studied the wind flags. Watched the heat shimmer. Dropped to one knee. Put her palm flat on the sand. What's she doing? Brennan muttered. Reading the environment. Garrett's voice carried something like awe. Jonas used to do the exact same thing. Said you had to feel the earth before you could master the air above it. Emma settled behind the Barrett. Her frame looked impossibly small behind the massive weapon, but her hands moved with absolute confidence, adjusting, compensating, calculating. She didn't use the spotting scope, didn't check the wind gauge a second time, just pressed her eye to the glass and became still. Not the stillness of effort, the stillness of absolute presence. The first shot cracked the air. Downrange, the target's head disintegrated. Garrett's breath caught. Headshot. At 1,000 yards. First round. The second shot followed 3 seconds later. Same result. Third, fourth, fifth. Each one a metronome of precision. Each one a headshot. The entire string took 45 seconds. When Emma stood, the silence was absolute. Thorne broke it. I've been shooting for 34 years. I've never seen anything like that. Neither have I. Mackenzie's voice carried something between respect and fear. That's not human. That's something else. That's Jonas. Garrett stepped forward, extended his hand. Welcome to the team, Emma. Call sign, Wraith. Your grandfather would be proud. Emma shook his hand. Her grip was firm, her palm calloused in all the right places. Don't celebrate yet, Commander. We haven't finished the mission. And something tells me it's going to get a lot harder before it gets easier. She was right. She was so terribly, perfectly right. 3 days of preparation passed in a blur of equipment checks and tactical planning. Emma integrated into the team like she'd been there for years. She knew the hand signals, understood the comm protocols, moved through CQB drills with a fluidity that came from muscle memory so deep it lived in the bones. On the second day, Garrett pulled her aside during a break. They stood in the armory, surrounded by enough weapons to start a small war. Can I ask you something? He kept his voice low. Jonas, the last time I saw him was 1983, Grenada. He saved my life during the airport assault, took a round meant for me. I visited him in the hospital before he supposedly died. Garrett's hands worked an oiled rag over a disassembled M4. What was he like, after, when he was with you? Emma was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of memory. Careful, always looking over his shoulder, always checking exits. He couldn't sleep without a weapon within reach. Some nights I'd wake up and find him on the porch, just staring into the darkness with his rifle across his knees. PTSD. Maybe, or maybe justified paranoia when you know someone out there wants you dead. She picked up a Sig Sauer P226, checked the action. But he was kind too, patient. He taught me to shoot, to track, to survive. Taught me that being small meant being underestimated, and underestimation was the greatest weapon you could have. He taught you to be a ghost. He taught me to be a wraith. Emma smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The difference is important. Ghosts haunt. Wraiths hunt. Garrett understood then. Understood why Emma moved the way she did. Why her eyes never stopped scanning. Why she sat with her back to walls and always knew where the exits were. She wasn't Jonas's granddaughter playing at being an operator. She was Jonas's final weapon, pointed directly at the person who killed him. The night before departure, Garrett found Emma alone in the team room. She sat at the corner table, a worn journal spread before her. The pages were covered in handwriting, tight, controlled, military precision. Jonas's journal? Garrett asked. Emma didn't startle, didn't look up. The only thing he left me besides the bullet and the tattoo. Most of it's encrypted. Took me 3 years to crack his system. Some pages I still can't read. May I? She slid the journal across. Garrett sat, began reading. The entries jumped through years. 1980, 1983, 1989. Observations, suspicions, names that made his blood run cold because half of them were dead, and the other half were in positions of power they should never have reached. One entry near the end stopped him cold. December 2008. I'm close. Archangel's identity is within reach. 5 suspects remain. One of them betrayed us in Panama. One of them killed 9 of my brothers. One of them will try to kill me. If you're reading this, Emma, I'm dead. They got to me first. But you'll finish it. You have to. Because if Archangel isn't stopped, more will die. Better men. Younger men. Men who still believe the system protects them. Finish this for me. For them. For everyone who died believing they were safe. Beneath it, 5 names. Garrett's eyes scanned the list. His heart stopped. The names were Dalton Garrett, Boone Mackenzie, Vaughn Thorne, Rourke Brennan, Dmitry Volkov. Garrett looked up. Emma was watching him with those winter steel eyes. You think I'm Archangel? It wasn't a question. I think one of you is. Emma's voice held no accusation, just fact. Jonas died before he could narrow it down. So either you're the traitor or you're sitting in a room with him every day, trusting him with your life. Why tell me this? If I'm Archangel, you just signed your death warrant. Because if you're not, you deserve to know what we're walking into. And if you are, Emma's hand moved to her sidearm with casual grace. Jonas taught me to shoot first and mourn later. Garrett closed the journal, slid it back. I'm not Archangel, but you're right not to trust anyone. Jonas learned that the hard way. He stood. Get some sleep, Wraith. Tomorrow we deploy, and one way or another, we're going to finish what your grandfather started. The C-17 Globemaster's engines screamed at 30,000 feet. In the cargo bay, 5 operators sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts, each carrying their own weights. Emma sat portside, eyes closed but not sleeping. The journal was tucked inside her vest, pressed against her heart. The bullet Jonas gave her was in her pocket, a talisman against the dark. Across from her, Garrett stared at nothing. Beside him, Mackenzie cleaned a knife that didn't need cleaning. Thorne checked his communications gear for the 4th time. Brennan prayed silently, lips moving around words only God could hear. The loadmaster appeared. 20 minutes to drop zone. HAHO jump. 30,000 feet. Glide pattern to LZ. Weather's clear. Winds favorable. Intel says target compound is 40 clicks from drop. You'll trek in, hit at dawn. Emma opened her eyes, found Garrett watching her. He nodded once. She nodded back. Warriors acknowledging warriors. The only truth that mattered when you jumped out of aircraft in the dark and trusted your life to fabric and physics. The red light snapped on. The rear ramp began to lower. Wind screamed into the bay, a banshee wail that promised violence and delivered truth. Stand up! The loadmaster's voice barely cut through the roar. 5 operators rose, checked each other's gear. Bonds forged in shared danger. Bonds that could survive anything, except betrayal. 1 minute. Emma moved to the ramp, looked down. 30,000 feet of nothing. Somewhere below, in the Carpathian darkness, answers waited. Truth waited. Maybe death waited. Definitely Archangel waited. The green light blazed. Emma stepped into the void. Behind her, 4 men followed. One of them was a traitor. One of them would die. And Emma Kane, Wraith, Hunter, granddaughter of ghosts, would make sure it was the right one. The night swallowed them whole. The mission had begun. The canopy deployed at 28,000 feet with a sound like God cracking his knuckles. Emma's body jerked upward as the Ram Air parachute caught wind, transforming her from falling stone to soaring bird in the space of a heartbeat. Silence rushed in where the scream of wind had been. Not true silence, never that at altitude, but the kind of quiet that lets you hear your own breathing, your own heartbeat, the whisper of nylon cutting through frozen air. She looked up. 4 other canopies spread across the night sky, like dark flowers blooming in reverse. Garrett's was closest, his silhouette unmistakable even at 200 yards. Beyond him, Mackenzie, Thorne, and Brennan formed a loose diamond pattern. Professional, controlled, exactly as briefed. One of them wants me dead, Emma thought. The cold at this altitude had nothing to do with weather. The glide would take 40 minutes. 40 minutes suspended between Earth and heaven, between mission prep and mission execution, between the woman she'd been and whatever she'd become by sunrise. She adjusted her heading, found the GPS waypoint glowing soft green on her wrist display, and settled into the rhythm of controlled flight. Below, the Carpathian Mountains sprawled like the spine of some ancient beast, all peaks and valleys and shadows that held secrets older than nations. Somewhere in that darkness, Volkov's compound waited. Somewhere in that same darkness, answers about Jonas waited. Emma's hand moved to the journal tucked against her chest. Even through layers of tactical vest in cold weather gear, she could feel it. Could feel the weight of her grandfather's words, his suspicions, his final desperate attempt to warn her about the men she was currently trusting with her life. The mountains rose to meet them. 20 minutes into the glide, Garrett's voice crackled through her earpiece. Wraith, status check. Green across the board, Commander. On course, on time. Copy. All elements sound off. One by one, the others reported in. Mackenzie's growl. Thorne's clipped precision. Brennan's soft drawl. All normal. All professional. All potentially lying. LZ in 15, Garrett continued. Stack on me at touchdown. Silent approach to Rally Point Alpha. Wraith takes point for Nav. Any questions? Silence answered him. Good operators didn't waste breath on questions they already knew answers to. Emma checked her altimeter. 12,000 feet and dropping. The ground was close enough now that she could make out individual trees, the silver thread of a river cutting through the valley, the darker patches that marked clearings. Their LZ was a meadow 3 clicks from the target, chosen because the approach was uphill. Hard work, but it meant they'd be coming from the direction Volkov's security would least expect. At 500 feet, Emma pulled her toggles, bleeding speed and altitude in controlled spirals. The meadow rushed up, dark grass and scattered rocks. She flared at the last second, felt her boots kiss earth with barely a whisper. 3 steps to kill momentum, then she was down, already gathering her chute, already scanning the tree line with her rifle up and ready. The others landed within 60 seconds. Ghost quiet, professional, efficient. Within 3 minutes, all 5 had cached their chutes under deadfall, checked weapons, and formed up in a tactical column. Garrett moved to Emma's shoulder. In the green wash of her night vision, his face looked carved from stone. You're on point, Wraith. Get us there. Emma nodded, pulled out her compass and GPS. The route she'd memorized burned clear in her mind. Jonas had taught her that maps were crutches, that real navigators carried terrain in their heads like other people carried memories. She oriented herself to the distant peak that marked their approach vector, calculated the dead reckoning to account for the valley's magnetic anomalies, and started walking. The forest swallowed them. The Carpathian wilderness at night was a place of whispers and watching eyes. Every 30 meters, Emma stopped, listened, scanned. Behind her, the team moved like shadows given form. No one spoke. Hand signals only, the old language of violence, older than words, clearer than speech. 2 clicks in, Emma's hand shot up, fist closed. The column froze. She'd seen it in her peripheral vision, a glint that shouldn't exist in natural darkness. She dropped to one knee, brought her rifle scope up, scanned the tree line 40 meters ahead. There, monofilament wire, knee-high, stretched between 2 trees. She traced its path with her eyes, found where it terminated in a shadow that had the wrong geometry to be natural. IED, improvised explosive device, pressure release trigger. Step over the wire, nothing happens. Cut the wire, nothing happens. But disturb the trees it's anchored to, or trigger the secondary she was certain existed somewhere nearby, and the forest would light up like the 4th of July. Emma moved forward slowly, felt rather than saw Brennan materialize at her shoulder. The demo expert. His eyes followed her sightline, found the device, studied it. He leaned close, breath warm against her ear. Composition 4, maybe 2 kilos, shrapnel wrapped around the core, 20-meter kill radius. A pause. That's not insurgent work. That's professional, military grade. Can you disarm it? Emma whispered back. Can, yes. Should, no. Takes time, makes noise. Better to mark and avoid. Emma nodded, marked the position on her GPS, plotted a bypass route. The team moved wide, giving the device a healthy margin. But as they passed, Emma's mind worked the problem. Professional explosives, military placement, this far from the compound. It meant Volkov's security extended further than intel suggested, or it meant someone had known they were coming and wanted to funnel them down a specific approach route. Neither option was comforting. 3 hours of slow, careful movement brought them to a ridge overlooking the target. Emma called a halt, and the team went prone along the military crest, just below the actual ridgeline, where their silhouettes wouldn't break the horizon. The compound sprawled in the valley below, a 3-story mansion that had probably been beautiful once. Now it was a fortress. Floodlights at every corner, guard towers on the perimeter, patrols moving in coordinated patterns. Emma counted 20 visible hostiles, knew there'd be twice that many inside. Garrett appeared at her side, his spotting scope already up. Defensive posture is solid, overlapping fields of fire, patrol rotation every 30 minutes. This isn't a drug dealer's vacation home. This is a military installation. Volkov takes security seriously, Thorne added from Emma's other side, which means whatever he's protecting is worth serious money. Emma adjusted her scope, began her own assessment. The guards moved well. Too well. These weren't hired thugs. These were operators. Maybe former Spetsnaz, maybe worse. She panned across the compound, cataloging exits, weak points, approach vectors. The basement had small windows, heavily barred. That's where high-value assets would be kept. The second floor showed lights in 3 rooms, living quarters probably. The third floor was dark except for one room on the east corner, a single light burning behind curtains. Her scope found the courtyard. 4 men standing in a loose circle, smoking, casual, relaxed. The kind of relax that came from confidence, not carelessness. Then a 5th man stepped into view, and Emma's world tilted. He was tall, maybe 6'1", silver hair cut military short, late 60s, moved like someone who'd spent a lifetime in combat zones and never quite left them behind. He wore a dark suit, incongruous in this setting, but wore it like armor. Emma's finger trembled on the focus ring. The man's face sharpened. She'd never seen him before, never met him, never heard his voice, but she knew him. Commander, her whisper cut through the night. East corner of the courtyard, silver hair, suit. Garrett swung his scope. She heard his sharp intake of breath. That's not possible. Second time someone said that to me this week, Emma replied. Who is he? Garrett's voice came out strangled. Admiral Marcus Holloway, former DevGru commander, former Naval Special Warfare Development Group CO. He died in 1990, training accident in the Philippines. Like Jonas died in 1984? Emma's question hung in the cold air. Jesus Christ. Mackenzie had moved up, added his scope to the surveillance. That's Holloway. I served under him. I was at his funeral. I helped carry his casket. Empty casket, apparently. Thorne's voice carried the flatness of a man reassessing everything he thought he knew. Emma's mind raced. Jonas's journal had mentioned Holloway exactly once. A notation from 1989, 3 words. Holloway knows something. Nothing more, nothing less. She'd assumed it meant Holloway had intel about Archangel, never considered that Holloway might be connected more directly. If Holloway faked his death, Emma said slowly, working through the logic, and Jonas faked his death, and both were investigating Archangel, then either they were working together or they were working against each other, Garrett finished, his jaw clenched. Which would mean Jonas wasn't hunting Archangel, he was hunting Holloway. The implications crashed down like an avalanche. If Holloway was Archangel, he'd been operating for 35 years, selling secrets, getting people killed, building whatever empire required this level of security in the Romanian wilderness. New mission priority, Garrett said. We need Holloway alive. We need to know what he knows, who he's working with, how deep this goes. And the archive? Thorne asked. The intel Bellamy briefed us on? Still priority 1, but Holloway's our path to it. We take him, We get everything. Emma continued scanning the compound. Something bothered her. The security was good, yes. Professional, absolutely. But the patrol patterns, the tower positions, the overlapping fields of fire, she'd seen this doctrine before. Not in briefings, not in training, in Jonas's journal. The old man had sketched defensive positions in his notes, critiquing them, improving them. The compound below matched those improvements almost exactly, which meant either someone had read Jonas's work or they knew we were coming. Emma's voice cut cold and certain through the night. This isn't random security. This is a trap waiting to be sprung. Explain, Garrett ordered. The IED we bypassed, the defensive positions, the patrol patterns, they're all designed to funnel an attacking force into specific approach vectors. Vectors that look like weakness, but are actually kill zones. She pointed. See the south wall? Lower elevation, less lighting, only one guard tower. It screams, attack here. But look at the shadows. At least 3 heavy weapons positions with interlocking fire. Anyone who breaches that wall walks into a meat grinder. Brennan studied the position, nodded slowly. She's right. This is designed to draw in an assault force and slaughter them. So, what's the play? Mackenzie asked. Emma thought. Jonas had taught her that the best defense could become the worst vulnerability if you understood the defender's mindset. Whoever designed this expected attackers to look for weakness and exploit it. Expected standard tactical doctrine. Expected operators to operate. We don't assault, Emma said. We infiltrate. One person, small profile, unexpected vector. Suicide, Thorne said flatly. Maybe, but it's also the only approach they won't anticipate. Emma lowered her scope. I'll go, solo, through the east side. There's a cliff face they think is unclimbable. I'll climb it. Absolutely not. Garrett's command voice would have stopped a charging bull. We don't split the team. We're already split, Commander. One of us is Archangel. One of us probably radioed ahead, told Holloway we were coming, helped set this trap. Emma met his eyes. Jonas was right about the 5 suspects, but he died before narrowing it down. So either I trust all of you and we walk into a kill zone, or I trust none of you and go alone. The silence that followed could have been cut with a K-bar. Finally, Brennan spoke. If one of us is compromised, splitting is smart tactics, but sending you alone is still suicide, kid. Kid? Emma's smile held no humor. I'm the best shooter on this team. I've got the smallest profile. I grew up free climbing in Tennessee mountains that make this cliff look like a playground. And I'm the only one here with nothing to lose, except finishing what my grandfather started. She paused. So yeah, I'm going. Question is whether you support the op or try to stop me. Garrett studied her for a long moment. She could see him weighing options, calculating odds, measuring the gaps between duty and survival and truth. You go wired, he finally said. Full comms. We monitor by radio. You get in trouble, we extract you even if it blows the whole mission. Deal. And you take this. Garrett pulled something from his vest. A knife. Not standard issue. The handle was worn smooth from years of use. The blade dark with age and oil and perhaps old blood. Jonas gave this to me in 1983. Said it saved his life more than his rifle ever did. If he's watching from wherever warriors go when they die, he'd want you to have it. Emma took the blade. The weight felt right in her hand, like it had been waiting for her. She slid it into her boot sheath. Thank you, Commander. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're back alive with Holloway and zip ties in the archive on a hard drive. The team spent the next hour preparing. Mackenzie would set up a sniper position with overlapping coverage of the courtyard and east approach. Thorne would handle communications and monitoring Emma's audio. Garrett and Brennan would position for emergency extraction if things went sideways. Which, Emma reflected as she checked her climbing gear one final time, they almost certainly would. At 0300 hours, she moved out. The approach to the cliff face took 30 minutes of slow, careful movement through terrain that wanted to kill her. Loose scree that could start slides, deadfall that could snap under weight, shadows that might hide sentries or sensors, or both. But Emma had learned from the best ghost in the business. She moved like water, like wind, like the idea of movement rather than movement itself. Her boots found purchase on stone that looked smooth. Her hands gripped edges that seemed non-existent. Her breathing stayed controlled, her heartbeat steady, her mind clear. The cliff rose 50 feet, sheer rock that gleamed dully in the starlight. No ropes, no pitons, just fingers and toes and the kind of faith that came from 10,000 hours of practice. She reached up, found her first grip, and began to climb. The rock was cold, rough, ancient. Emma's fingers traced holds that might have been used by warriors 1,000 years dead, or might have never known human touch. She didn't think about the drop, didn't think about failure, thought only about the next move, the next grip, the next impossible inch upward. 20 feet up, her right foot slipped. For one heart-stopping second, she hung by 3 points of contact, body swinging over nothing. Then her foot found purchase, and she was stable again, breathing hard but controlled. "Wraith, you good?" Garrett's voice in her ear, concerned but not panicked. "Peachy, Commander, just admiring the view." She kept climbing. At 40 feet, she heard voices. Guards on the wall above, no more than 10 feet from where she'd crest. They were speaking Romanian. Emma's language skills were limited, but she caught enough. Something about shift change, complaints about the cold. One of them wanted a cigarette, but the sergeant had forbidden smoking on duty. Emma froze, became stone, breathed so shallowly her chest barely moved. The guard's footsteps moved away. She counted to 30, then resumed climbing. The last 10 feet were the hardest. Less grip, more exposure. The knowledge that discovery now meant a 50-foot fall onto rocks that would pulverize bone. Her fingers found the top edge. She pulled herself up slowly, eyes barely clearing the wall's edge, scanning for threats. The walkway was empty. The guards had moved to the next tower. Timing window maybe 60 seconds before patrol rotation brought them back. Emma flowed over the wall like smoke, dropped into a crouch, oriented herself. The compound's interior was a courtyard surrounded by the 3-story building on 3 sides. Vehicle parking on the 4th, loading dock, maintenance access. And there, a small door, service entrance probably, shadowed and unwatched because the security focused outward, not in. She moved, crossed 40 feet of open ground in 8 seconds, pressed herself against the wall beside the door, tested the handle, locked. Emma pulled her picks. Jonas had taught her that locks were just puzzles with consequences. The mechanism was old, Soviet era, simple. She had it open in 40 seconds. The door swung inward on oiled hinges. Interior hallway, dimly lit, smelling of old concrete and gun oil. Emma slipped inside, eased the door closed behind her. "I'm in," she whispered. "Ground floor, east side, heading toward the basement." "Copy," Garrett responded. "Audio only. Your signal cut out when you went over the wall. Probably interference from the compound systems. We're tracking by radio. Proceed with caution. At least 15 hostiles in your vicinity based on thermal from our position." Emma moved through the hallway like a ghost through walls. Every 10 feet she stopped, listened, scanned. The building had the feel of old Soviet construction. Brutalist, functional, designed for purpose, not beauty. Concrete floors, exposed pipes, flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying insects. She found a stairwell descending, the basement, where high-value assets lived and secrets went to hide. The stairs were metal, but Emma's boots were soft-soled. She descended in silence, rifle up, finger indexed along the frame, ready to fire, but not eager. The basement hallway was darker, colder. 3 doors on the left, 2 on the right. and at the end, a larger door, reinforced. The kind of door that said, "Important things beyond here." Emma approached slowly, heard voices through the door, male, arguing in English. She pressed her ear to the cold metal. The voices became clearer. "Don't care what your timeline is. The archive doesn't move until I'm satisfied with security." That voice was cultured, controlled, American, Holloway. "Security is solid. Your paranoia serves no purpose except delay." Different voice, accented, Russian probably, Volkov. "My paranoia kept me alive for 35 years while better men died." Holloway's voice carried edges sharp enough to cut. "We move when I say we move." Emma's hand moved to her radio, ready to report. Then she heard the third voice. "Gentlemen, perhaps we're all being hasty." She knew that voice. Her blood turned to ice water. It was a voice she'd heard 3 days ago in a briefing room in Coronado. A voice that had checked her gear before the jump. A voice she'd trusted. Rourke Brennan. "Chief Brennan raises a good point," Holloway continued. "The team is in position. Your information was accurate. They'll approach from the south, hit at dawn. We'll be waiting." Time stopped. Every sound faded except her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Brennan, the quiet one, the man who prayed before missions. Archangel. He'd gotten 9 SEALs killed in Panama. He'd murdered Jonas, and he'd just told Holloway exactly where Garrett, Mackenzie, and Thorne were positioned. But before she could key the mic, the safety clicked off behind her head. "Don't move, Miss Kane." The voice was soft, almost apologetic. "Please keep your hands where I can see them." Emma froze. Calculated odds. The voice was male, close, directly behind. The rifle muzzle pressed against her skull couldn't be more than 18 inches from the shooter. Too close for her to turn and deflect. Too far for a backward strike to work. She was caught. "Radio," the voice instructed. "Remove it slowly. Left hand only. 2 fingers. Drop it on the ground." Emma complied. The radio clattered on concrete. Now the rifle. Same procedure. The M4 joined the radio. Sidearm. Boot knife. "Don't make me search you. I'd rather not put my hands on a lady without permission, but I will if necessary." Emma removed her weapons, placed them on the floor. Her mind raced. Jonas had taught her that captured wasn't dead, that while you breathed, you had options. Find the option, exploit it. "Turn around, slowly." Emma turned. The man facing her was mid-40s, compact build, cold eyes that had seen violence and found it acceptable. He held a suppressed pistol trained on her center mass. Professional stance, professional grip, professional everything. Inside, he gestured to the reinforced door with the pistol. "They're expecting you." The door opened from within. Light spilled out. Emma walked forward, knowing she was walking into a trap, but having no choice except to spring it, and hope she was fast enough, smart enough, ruthless enough to survive what came next. The room beyond was large, concrete-walled, fluorescent lit. A table in the center, 3 men standing around it. Admiral Marcus Holloway, silver-haired and shark-eyed, wearing his suit like it was still 1990. Dmitry Volkov, shorter, wider, hard as Russian winter, with a face that suggested cruelty came naturally. And Chief Petty Officer Rourke Brennan, looking exactly like what he was, a man who'd sold his soul 35 years ago and never looked back. Emma Kane. Holloway's smile held no warmth. "Jonas's granddaughter. I've been waiting to meet you for a very long time. Your grandfather was a remarkable man. Stubborn, relentless, smart enough to be dangerous, but not quite smart enough to stay alive." He paused. "Let's see if you inherited his intelligence or just his stubbornness." Emma said nothing, scanned the room. One exit behind her, now blocked by the guard. No windows, no cover. 3 armed men plus the guard. Odds somewhere between bad and catastrophic. But Jonas hadn't raised a quitter. "You're wondering how we knew you'd come," Holloway continued. How we knew you'd climb the east wall. How we knew everything. He glanced at Brennan. Chief, would you like to explain? You've earned the right. Brennan looked at Emma. Something that might have been regret flickered in his eyes. Might have been, but probably wasn't. I told them, kid. Told them everything. Your plan, your approach, your timing. He shook his head. You never had a chance. None of you did. The moment Garrett recruited you for this op, you were already dead. Just didn't know it yet. Why? Emma's voice came out steady. Good. Show no fear. Jonas trusted you. The team trusted you. We're supposed to be brothers. Brothers don't pay for college tuition. Brothers don't cover medical bills when your kid gets cancer. Brothers don't set you up for retirement. Brennan's voice hardened. The Navy gave me a salary and a pat on the back. Holloway gave me $10 million and a future. Easy choice. You killed 9 SEALs in Panama. I provided intelligence. What happened with that intelligence wasn't my concern. Brennan's face showed nothing. Holloway needed Archangel established, needed a network, needed people compromised. Panama was the price. Jonas almost figured it out, so we dealt with him. Now here you are, trying to finish what he started. Noble, stupid, but noble. Emma's eyes moved to Holloway. Why fake your death? Why disappear? Because dead men are invisible. Holloway stepped closer. As a living admiral, I was watched, scrutinized, limited. As a dead man, I could move freely, build relationships, create opportunities. I've spent 35 years constructing something beautiful, Miss Kane. A network that spans governments, militaries, intelligence services. I know secrets that could topple nations, and people pay handsomely for those secrets. The archive, Emma said, among other things. But yes, the archive is my masterpiece. Every black operation, every classified mission, every dirty secret from 1980 to 2015. Enough information to blackmail half the Pentagon and a quarter of Congress. Holloway's smile widened. And now, thanks to Chief Brennan's excellent work, I know exactly where your team is positioned. Volkov's men are moving on them as we speak. Garrett, Mackenzie, Thorne, all dead within the hour. Then we'll clean up this mess, burn the evidence, and disappear again. Emma felt the words like physical blows. Garrett, Mackenzie, Thorne, her team. Walking into an ambush because Brennan had sold them out. Because one of Jonas's 5 suspects had been exactly right. You're going to kill me too, Emma said. Statement, not question. Eventually, but first I want to know what Jonas told you, what he discovered, what evidence he left behind. You're going to tell me everything, Miss Kane, and you're going to do it willingly, because if you don't... Holloway nodded to the guard. The man produced a tablet, turned it toward Emma. The screen showed a live feed. Thermal imaging. 3 heat signatures in defensive positions on the ridge overlooking the compound. Garrett, Mackenzie, Thorne, and moving toward them from multiple directions, at least 20 more signatures. The ambush closing like a fist. You talk. I call off the attack. Your team lives. You talk. Everyone goes home. Well, except you. But 3 lives for 1? That's a trade Jonas would have taken. The question is whether you're as selfless as your grandfather. Emma stared at the screen. Watch the enemy forces converging. Calculated time. Maybe 5 minutes before contact, maybe less. She thought about Jonas, about his journal, about the bullet he'd given her, about the tattoo on her back that marked her as legacy and target in equal measure. She thought about Garrett's kindness, Mackenzie's respect, Thorne's professionalism. Good men. Maybe not perfect, but good. And she thought about what Jonas had taught her. Never surrender, never quit. And when they think they've won, that's when you strike. Emma looked up at Holloway, let her shoulders slump, let fear show in her eyes. Let him see exactly what he expected. A young woman, outmatched, terrified, breaking. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll tell you everything, just Just don't kill them, please." Holloway's smile was triumphant, predatory, the smile of a shark that had just tasted blood in the water. "Smart girl, much smarter than your grandfather. Now start talking. What did Jonas discover? What evidence did he—" Emma moved. The boot knife Garrett had given her, Jonas's knife, appeared in her hand like magic. She threw herself sideways toward Volkov, the nearest target. The Russian's eyes widened in surprise. He reached for his weapon. Too slow. Emma's blade took him in the throat. A butcher's cut. Brutal. Efficient. The kind of strike Jonas had taught her in a Tennessee cabin a lifetime ago. Volkov dropped, choking, drowning in his own blood. The guard behind her fired. The suppressed pistol coughed twice. Rounds cracked past Emma's head close enough to feel the displacement. She was already moving, using Volkov's falling body as cover, grabbing his pistol from his belt. Brennan drew his sidearm. Emma shot him first. Center mass. The Makarov bucked in her hand. Brennan staggered back, face showing surprise and pain, and the dawning realization that he'd underestimated her. The guard fired again. This time the round caught Emma's vest, punched the air from her lungs, spun her sideways. She fell, kept rolling, came up behind the concrete table. Holloway was moving toward the exit. Emma snapped a shot at him, missed, concrete chips exploding from the wall. He disappeared through the door. The guard advanced on her position, professional, calm. He'd killed before and would kill again. Emma had maybe 3 seconds before he had an angle on her. She didn't have 3 seconds. She had Jonas's training and a dead man's pistol and the absolute certainty that she wasn't dying in a Romanian basement while her team walked into an ambush. Emma stood, drew the guard's fire, let 2 more rounds hit her vest because the pain didn't matter, only the mission mattered. She put 3 rounds into the guard's face at point-blank range. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. She turned to Brennan. The chief was on the floor, blood spreading across his chest, breathing shallow. His weapon had fallen from his hand. Emma kicked it away. "Kid," Brennan's voice bubbled with blood. "That was stupid. Stupid keeps me alive. Smart got you shot." Emma grabbed the tactical radio from Brennan's vest. "Where's Holloway going?" "Escape. Tunnel. He's gone." "The ambush. How do I stop it?" Brennan smiled, blood on his teeth. "Can't. Already in motion. They're dead. You're dead." "We're all—" He stopped breathing. Emma didn't wait. She snatched up weapons, her M4, her sidearm, the guard's pistol, Brennan's radio. Grabbed the tablet showing the tactical display. The enemy forces were 2 minutes from her team's position. 2 minutes. She ran. The hallway blurred past. She took stairs 3 at a time, burst through the service door into the courtyard. Alarms were wailing now. Someone had found the bodies or heard the shots despite the suppressors. The compound was coming alive like a kicked anthill. Emma's tactical radio crackled. Garrett's voice, urgent. "Wraith, we have movement. Multiple contacts closing on our position. We need to—" "It's a trap," Emma screamed into the radio. "Brennan sold us out. You've got 20 hostiles inbound. Displace now. Displace now." Static. Then Garrett's voice, hard as steel. "Copy. Displacing. What's your status?" "Basement's clear. 3 down, including Brennan. Holloway's running. I'm in pursuit." "Negative. RTB to our position. We extract together." "Can't, Commander. Holloway has the archive. We lose him. We lose everything Jonas died for." Emma was running as she talked, crossing the courtyard, heading for the east wall. Behind her, guards were spilling from the building. Ahead, the cliff face loomed. She had maybe 30 seconds before they started shooting. Garrett's voice carried something Emma had never heard from him before. Fear. "Emma, that's an order. Get back here. Tell my grandfather I finished the mission." Emma reached the wall, holstered her weapons, started climbing down. Wraith out. She switched off the radio. The night erupted with gunfire. Rounds sparked off stone inches from her hands. Emma climbed faster than safety allowed, faster than training recommended, fingers and toes finding holds by instinct and desperation. A bullet caught her pack, destroyed her water bladder. Another took a chunk from her vest's shoulder strap. She kept climbing. At 20 feet from the bottom, she let go, fell, landed in a combat roll that sent pain screaming through her bruised ribs, came up running. The forest swallowed her. Behind, searchlights swept the cliff face. Dogs barked. Men shouted. The entire compound was hunting her now. Good. While they hunted her, they weren't hunting her team. Emma ran through the Carpathian darkness, alone, outgunned, carrying the weight of a mission that had just turned from infiltration to survival. Somewhere ahead, Holloway was escaping. Somewhere behind, her team was fighting for their lives. And somewhere in between, Emma Kane, Wraith, Hunter, granddaughter of ghosts, had to decide whether revenge or duty mattered more. Jonas's voice echoed in her memory. The mission always comes first, even if it costs you everything. Emma ran faster. The night had just begun, and before it ended, someone would die. She intended to make sure it wasn't her. The Carpathian forest at night was a maze of shadows and teeth. Emma ran through it like a woman possessed, branches whipping her face, roots trying to trip her with every step. Behind her, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. Dogs baying, men shouting, the mechanical whine of all-terrain vehicles revving to life. She had maybe 3 minutes before they organized a proper hunt. 3 minutes to put distance between herself and the compound. 3 minutes to find Holloway's escape route before he vanished into the Romanian wilderness with 35 years of secrets. Emma's tactical mind worked the problem even as her legs pumped. Holloway was older, slower, but he'd been planning this contingency for years. He wouldn't run blind into the forest. He'd have a vehicle staged, an extraction point, a safe house somewhere in the region where he could disappear and rebuild. She stopped, pressed her back against a massive oak, forced her breathing to slow, listened. The pursuit was spreading out, covering ground in a sweep pattern. Professional. They'd done this before. But they were loud, crashing through undergrowth with the subtlety of a freight train. Urban operators, probably, used to cities and close quarters, not wilderness tracking. Emma pulled out the tablet she'd taken from the guard. The screen was cracked but functional. The tactical display still showed her team's position. They'd displaced from the ridge, were moving fast through the valley, enemy forces in pursuit but losing ground. Garrett knew his business. They'd make it out. She switched screens, found a GPS overlay of the compound area, studied it with eyes Jonas had trained to read terrain like other people read newspapers. There, a logging road, 3 kilometers northwest. It terminated at an old mining facility that satellite imagery showed as abandoned. Perfect place for a safe house. Perfect place for Holloway to have a vehicle waiting. Emma oriented herself, checked her compass, and started moving. Not running now. Moving. Silent. Controlled. The way Jonas had taught her to hunt deer in Tennessee mountains when she was 12 years old and the world was simpler. The forest thinned as she climbed higher. The ground became rockier, the trees more sparse. Emma used the terrain, staying in the low ground where possible, avoiding ridge lines where her silhouette might show against the stars. 20 minutes of hard movement brought her to the logging road. It was overgrown but still passable by vehicle. Tire tracks in the mud, recent, heading northwest. Emma knelt, touched them, still wet, made within the last hour. She followed the tracks. The old mining facility materialized from the darkness like something from a nightmare. Rusted equipment scattered like metal bones. Collapsed buildings with walls eaten by time and weather. And in the center, a single structure still intact. A concrete bunker, probably an office once, now serving a very different purpose. Light spilled from the bunker's windows. Not bright, dim, the kind of light from battery-powered lanterns. Emma circled wide, approached from the north where the shadows were deepest. Got within 50 meters before she saw the vehicle. A Land Rover Defender, black, mud-splattered, engine still ticking as it cooled. Driver's door open, interior light on, empty. Holloway was inside the bunker, but Emma had learned from Jonas. She scanned the perimeter, checked angles, looked for what didn't belong, and found it. A glint of glass. Second story of a partially collapsed structure, 80 meters northeast. She adjusted her scope, found the shape. A man, prone position, rifle with scope, counter sniper. Emma's pulse quickened. If she approached the bunker door, the sniper had a clean shot. If she tried to breach, she'd be exposed for at least 3 seconds. More than enough time for a professional. She had to neutralize him first. Emma repositioned, using the wrecked mining equipment as cover, closed the distance to 50 meters. The counter sniper was good, minimal movement, professional discipline, but he was watching the bunker entrance, not expecting a threat from his flank. She lined up the shot. The wind was still, distance 50 meters, easy. She held her breath, squeezed. The suppressed M4 coughed. The counter sniper jerked once, then went still. Emma waited, watched for secondary threats. Nothing moved. She approached the fallen sniper, checked him. Dead. Professional gear, Romanian military surplus mixed with high-end optics. In his ear, a radio crackled. Holloway's voice. "Andre, report. Did she approach?" Emma took the radio, deepened her voice, kept it short. Negative, still waiting. A pause, then, "Copy, maintain position." Emma pocketed the radio. Holloway thought his trap was still active. Good. Let him think he was safe. Emma moved to the Land Rover first, checked the interior, maps on the passenger seat, marked with routes through Romania, Hungary, Austria. Fake passports in the glove box. 4 different identities, 4 different nationalities. A go bag in the back loaded with cash, weapons, medical supplies. Everything a ghost needed to stay disappeared. Emma disabled the vehicle's distributor cap, pocketed it, then approached the bunker. The windows were too grimy to see through clearly. She could make out shapes, movement, but no details. The door was steel, heavy, designed to keep people out, or in. Emma tested it gently, locked. But the frame was old, corroded. The lock was modern, but the metal it was anchored into was 70 years old and rotting. She pulled Jonas's knife from her boot, worked the blade into the gap between door and frame, applied pressure. The corroded metal groaned, flaked. She worked the blade deeper, found the bolt, levered against it. The frame gave with a shriek of tortured metal. Emma burst through, M4 up and ready. The bunker's interior was a single, large room. Concrete walls, sweating moisture. The air thick with the smell of mold and old earth. Battery lanterns hung from hooks, casting pools of weak yellow light. A folding table in the center held a laptop, external hard drives, stacks of documents. And standing beside the table, Admiral Marcus Holloway held a pistol pointed directly at Emma's center mass. "I was wondering how long you'd take," he said calmly. 3 minutes faster than I estimated. Jonas trained you well." Emma kept her rifle trained on him. They stood 15 feet apart, both armed, both ready. A standoff measured in heartbeats and trigger pressure. "It's over, Holloway. Brennan's dead. Volkov's dead. Your network is compromised. Surrender the archive and maybe you live long enough to stand trial." Holloway smiled. It was a terrible smile, empty of everything human. "You think you've won? You've won nothing, child. I've been running operations since before you were born. I've survived purges, investigations, coup attempts. I've outlived better operators than you and your grandfather combined. Then you should know when you're beaten." "Beaten?" Holloway laughed. The sound echoed off concrete walls. "I'm not beaten. I'm inconvenienced, irritated, but not beaten. Brennan was useful but replaceable. Volkov was a business partner, nothing more. The network survives. It always survives. Emma's finger rested on the trigger. Last chance, drop the weapon. Or what? You'll shoot me? Then you'll never know the truth about Jonas. Never know what really happened in Panama. Never know why your grandfather really died. Emma's jaw clenched. I know enough. You betrayed him, sold out 9 SEALs, built an empire on blood money. Is that what you think? Holloway's voice carried something like amusement. Jonas didn't tell you everything, did he? Couldn't bring himself to admit the truth. That's the problem with men like your grandfather. Too much honor, too much righteousness. It blinds them to reality. Stop talking. Jonas was Archangel. The words dropped like grenades. Or he would have been if he'd accepted my offer. 1989, Panama. I approached him first, offered him the same deal I offered Brennan. $10 million, a future beyond the Navy. All he had to do was look the other way while I established my network. The words hit like a physical blow. Emma's grip tightened on her rifle. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself, why did Jonas fake his death in 1984? Why disappear for 5 years then resurface for Panama? Because he was investigating me? Or because he was considering my offer and needed time to think? Holloway's smile widened. He almost said yes, Emma. Your grandfather, your hero, almost became exactly what Brennan became. The only difference is Jonas's conscience got in the way. He refused you, tried to stop you. He refused me, yes, and that refusal cost 9 men their lives. Holloway's voice hardened. I gave Jonas a choice. Join me or I'd proceed without him. He chose righteousness. So I activated Brennan instead, fed bad intelligence, and watched those 9 SEALs die in a Panama street. Their blood is on Jonas's hands as much as mine. He could have prevented it, could have saved them. All he had to do was compromise. Emma's finger trembled on the trigger. You're trying to manipulate me. I'm telling you the truth your grandfather couldn't. Jonas spent 20 years hunting me because he was trying to atone for his choice, trying to prove he'd made the right decision. But deep down he knew. Those 9 men died because he valued his honor more than their lives. Holloway paused. He died still trying to convince himself he'd chosen correctly. Do you want to die the same way? I'm nothing like him. No, you're here, aren't you? Alone, separated from your team, chasing revenge instead of completing the mission. Jonas taught you to be a weapon, Emma, but weapons don't think. They don't feel. They just do what they're designed for. Holloway's gun hand never wavered. Put down your rifle. Walk away. I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. Your team survives. You survive. Everyone goes home. And you keep selling secrets. Keep getting people killed. People die every day. At least my operations serve a purpose. Money, power, control. What does your righteousness serve? A dead man's memory? A grandfather who would have sold you out the same way he sold out those 9 SEALs if the price was right. Emma's vision tunneled. Red crept in at the edges. Every instinct screamed at her to pull the trigger, to end this, to make Holloway pay for Jonas, for the 9 SEALs, for everything. But Jonas's voice cut through the rage. A memory from years ago, sitting on the cabin porch, cleaning rifles in the Tennessee twilight. Anger makes you stupid, Emma. Stupid gets you killed. When the enemy wants you angry, that's when you get calm. Emma took a breath, let it out slowly. Her finger moved from the trigger to the frame. You're good, she said. Almost had me. The story about Jonas considering your offer? Nice touch. But you made one mistake. Oh? Holloway's eyebrow raised. What mistake? Jonas kept a journal. Every operation, every decision, every thought. I've read it cover to cover 50 times. There's no mention of any offer from you. No internal debate. No consideration. Just investigation. Just hunting. Emma's voice steadied. He didn't refuse you because his conscience got in the way. He refused you because you never asked. You went straight to Brennan because Jonas would have killed you on the spot. Holloway's smile faded. And those 9 SEALs? Emma continued. Jonas didn't get them killed. You did. Their blood is on your hands alone. You've been carrying that weight for 35 years, trying to justify it, trying to spread the guilt around. But it won't wash off. It never will. Clever girl. Holloway's voice went flat. Dangerous. Jonas would be proud. Doesn't change the situation, though. We're still at a standoff. Neither of us can shoot without the other shooting back. Mexican standoff. Mutually assured destruction. Not quite. Emma shifted her weight slightly. See, I'm wearing a tactical vest rated for pistol rounds. You're wearing a suit. I can take a hit and keep fighting. You can't. So this isn't a standoff. This is me deciding whether you're worth more alive or dead. Holloway's eyes flickered. First sign of uncertainty she'd seen. Plus, Emma added, my team knows I'm here. They've got my position from radio tracking. Right now, Garrett's probably setting up a sniper position with a clear line of sight on this bunker. So you've got maybe 3 minutes before a .50 caliber round comes through that wall and turns your head into pink mist. It was a bluff. The radio had limited range, but Holloway didn't know that. His gun hand drifted slightly to the left, towards the laptop, towards the escape that data represented. Emma saw the tell, saw his weight shift, saw the decision forming in his eyes. He was going to shoot. For one crystalline moment, Emma stood at a crossroads. She could shoot first, kill him clean, quick, justice served. Or she could let him fire, risk the shot, maybe die, but give him the choice to surrender. Jonas's voice whispered in her memory. We're not executioners, Emma. We're warriors. There's a difference. But Holloway had executed Jonas, had murdered 9 SEALs, had sold out his country for 35 years. What mercy did a man like that deserve? Emma's finger rested on the trigger. 1 pound of pressure, that's all it would take. Holloway's eyes met hers, and in them she saw something unexpected. Not fear, not defiance, resignation. He knew he was dead. Had known since the moment she walked through that door. This standoff was theater, his last performance, and he was giving her a choice. Be the executioner or be the warrior. Time resumed. Holloway's trigger finger squeezed. Emma moved, not away, toward. She dropped low as the pistol barked, the round cracking past where her head had been. But instead of shooting, she lunged forward, closing the distance, using the table as a springboard. Her shoulder caught Holloway in the chest. They went down together. His pistol skittered across concrete. Emma rolled, came up with her rifle. Holloway gasped for air, winded, reaching for his weapon. Don't! Emma's voice was ice. The M4's muzzle was 6 inches from his face. Holloway's hand stopped. He looked up at her. Blood trickled from his lip where he'd bitten it in the fall. Do it, he said quietly. You've earned the right. I have. Emma's finger moved to the trigger. But Jonas didn't raise an executioner. She lowered the rifle slightly, aimed at Holloway's shoulder, fired once. Holloway screamed, clutched his shoulder. Blood welled between his fingers. That's for Jonas, Emma said. She fired again, left thigh. That's for the 9 in Panama. Holloway writhed, gasping. Non-lethal shots, painful, disabling, but survivable. Emma stood over him. You're going to live, Holloway. You're going to stand trial. You're going to spend the rest of your miserable life in a cell, watching your empire burn. That's justice, not this. She gestured with the rifle. Not a quick death you don't deserve. Holloway's laugh was weak, wet with pain. You think they'll let me testify? I know too much. Car accident, heart attack. I'll be dead before arraignment. Emma's jaw clenched because he was right. The people Holloway could expose would never let him talk. She pulled out her radio. Commander, I need immediate exfil. I have Holloway. He's wounded but alive. We need... Holloway's hand moved, fast, too fast for a wounded man. He pulled a backup pistol from an ankle holster. Emma saw it, saw the barrel rising, saw death coming. She fired, 3 rounds, center mass. The M4's report was deafening in the enclosed space. Holloway staggered back, hit the wall, slid down it, leaving a red smear on the concrete. The backup pistol clattered from his hand. Emma stood there, breathing hard. The choice had been taken from her. Holloway had chosen death, and she delivered it. Holloway's breathing was labored. Blood spread his white shirt like spilled wine. His eyes found hers. Still sharp, still calculating, even dying, he was thinking. "You shot me," he said, almost surprised. "You shot first. Again." "Tactical vest," he coughed, blood on his lips. "Still a bluff?" "Still a bluff," Holloway laughed. It turned into a wet cough. "Good. Good operator. Jonas trained you. Better than I thought. Where's the archive? The real one, not just these hard drives, the complete version." "Why would I tell you?" "Because you're dying. And dying men tell the truth. It's the last thing they get to control." Emma pulled out the tablet, showed him the tactical display. "Your men are scattered. My team is extracting. Brennan's dead. This facility will be crawling with Romanian authorities in an hour. Whatever legacy you thought you'd leave, it's over. But you can choose how it ends. Die as the traitor who took secrets to his grave, or die as the man who at least tried to make one thing right." Holloway's eyes studied her, looking for the angle, the manipulation, the lie. But Emma's face showed only truth, hard truth, the kind that couldn't be faked. "Montana," he finally said, "there's a storage facility outside Billings, Unit 247. Everything's there. Backups, insurance files, 35 years of secrets." "Why Montana?" "Because Jonas was there. I wanted him close. Wanted him to know he'd failed. That even after death, I was still operating, still free." Holloway coughed again. More blood. "Petty, I know. But I earned petty." Emma pulled out her tactical radio, switched it on. Garrett's voice came through immediately, urgent and relieved. "Wraith, where the hell are you? We're at Exfil Point. Need your position now." "Commander, I have Holloway. He's down. He gave up the archive location." Emma rattled off the Montana storage facility information. "Transmit that to Bellamy. CIA needs to secure it ASAP." "Copy. What's your status?" Emma looked at Holloway. The Admiral's breathing was getting shallower. "Minutes left, maybe less." "Wraith, status?" Garrett repeated. "Finishing a conversation, Commander. Then I'm heading to Exfil. ETA 30 minutes. "Roger. We'll wait. But Emma, make it 20. Romanian authorities are inbound." "Understood. Wraith out." Emma lowered the radio, looked at Holloway, the man who'd killed her grandfather, who'd betrayed everything the Trident stood for, who'd built an empire on blood and lies. "One question," she said. "Jonas, 2009, how'd you do it?" Holloway's smile was faint, bitter. "Truck. Mountain road, simple. Brennan set it up, made it look like accident. Your grandfather never saw it coming. Irony is, he was close. Had narrowed suspects to 2, me and Brennan. Was going to force our hands, make us both confess. By what method? Doesn't matter now." Holloway's eyes were fading. "He lost. I won. That's history." "No," Emma's voice was cold. "You didn't win. You survived. There's a difference. Jonas died with his honor. You're dying with nothing but regrets and blood on your hands. Honor doesn't keep you warm. Money does." "Then I hope it was worth it." Holloway's laugh was barely a whisper. "Ask me, in hell." His eyes went still. His breathing stopped. Admiral Marcus Holloway, Traitor, murderer, architect of 3 decades of betrayal, died on a concrete floor in an abandoned bunker in Romania. Alone, unmourned, exactly as he deserved. Emma stood, holstered her rifle, began gathering the hard drives and laptop. Evidence, proof, everything needed to dismantle what remained of Holloway's network. She worked quickly, efficiently, muscle memory taking over while her mind processed what had just happened. She'd killed a man. Not in the heat of combat, not in pure self-defense, though legally it qualified, but in the execution of justice. Jonas would have approved, would have done the same, would have stood exactly where she was standing and made exactly the same choice. The weight of that settled on her shoulders. Legacy wasn't just about the good things passed down. It was about the hard choices, the dark decisions, the moments where right and wrong blurred into something more complex. Emma packed the evidence into Holloway's go bag, took one last look at the body, felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not remorse, just completion. She'd finished what Jonas started. The rest was just walking home. Emma exited the bunker, found the Land Rover, reinstalled the distributor cap. The engine started on the first try. She pointed it toward the exfil point and drove. The forest blurred past. Dawn was maybe an hour away. The sky to the east was already lightening, stars fading into the gray pre-morning. By the time the sun rose, she'd be out of Romania, on a military transport heading back to Coronado. Mission complete. Her radio crackled. "Wraith, this is Overwatch. Do you copy?" Garrett's voice, steady, calm. The voice of a man who'd survived 40 years in the teams by staying cool when everything went hot. "Copy, Overwatch. En route to exfil. ETA 15 minutes. "Roger. Be advised. Romanian police responded to compound. Multiple casualties reported. They're expanding search radius. You need to move fast." "Already moving, Commander." A pause. Then Garrett's voice, softer. "Brennan?" "Dead. Volkov too. Holloway's network is dismantled. Archive location transmitted to Bellamy." Another pause, longer. When Garrett spoke again, his voice carried weight Emma couldn't quite identify. "And Holloway?" Emma glanced at the rearview mirror. The bunker was a speck in the distance now, disappearing into the forest. Justice was served. Understood. Garrett didn't ask for clarification. Didn't need to. He'd been in the teams long enough to know what that phrase meant. "Good work, Wraith. Jonas would be proud." Emma's throat tightened. She swallowed hard. "Thank you, sir. See you at exfil. We've got a beer waiting, and a long debrief, in that order." The Land Rover crested a hill. Below, she could see the valley where the exfil point was located. A clearing large enough for a helicopter. And there, 3 heat signatures visible through the pre-dawn murk. 3 men waiting. Her team. Her brothers. The ones who'd trusted her, supported her, followed her into hell and back. Emma pushed the accelerator down. The Land Rover picked up speed. 10 minutes later, she skidded to a stop at the clearing's edge. The sky was definitely lighter now. Morning wasn't far off. She could hear the distant thump of helicopter rotors. Their ride home. Garrett emerged from the tree line, followed by Mackenzie and Thorne. All 3 looked worse for wear. Dirt-streaked, exhausted, but alive. They'd made it out of the ambush, had survived despite Brennan's betrayal. Emma climbed out of the Land Rover, slung the go bag over her shoulder, walked toward them. Garrett met her halfway. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. 2 warriors who'd survived a mission that should have killed them both. Then Garrett pulled her into a brief, hard hug. "Hell of a first op, Wraith. Hell of a team, Commander." Mackenzie approached next, extended his hand. Emma shook it. The old sniper's grip was firm, respectful. "That shooting at the range wasn't a fluke. You're the real deal." "Learn from the best," Emma replied. Thorne was last. He studied her with those intelligence officer eyes that missed nothing. Brennan was Archangel all along. I served with him for 20 years. Never suspected. That's what made him good at it, Emma said. The best betrayals come from the people you'd never doubt. Jonas knew, though. Somehow, he knew. Jonas suspected everyone. That's why he survived as long as he did. The helicopter appeared over the tree line. A Black Hawk, unmarked, doors open and ready. The pilot circled once, then came in for landing. Rotor wash whipped the clearing into a frenzy of flying debris and bent grass. The four of them ran for the bird, climbed aboard. The crew chief pulled them in, slammed the door shut, and the helicopter was lifting before they'd even strapped in. Romania fell away below them. The compound was a smoking ruin in the distance. Local authorities swarmed it like ants on a carcass. By tomorrow, it would be international news. By next week, it would be a diplomatic incident. By next month, it would be memory. But the archive would survive, would be recovered, would bring down the remainder of Holloway's network. Justice, delayed but not denied. Emma leaned back against the bulkhead, closed her eyes, let the helicopter's vibration work into her bones. She was exhausted, bruised, probably had cracked ribs from the rounds that hit her vest. Her face was scratched from branches. Her hands were torn from the cliff climb. She'd never felt more alive. Garrett's hand landed on her shoulder. Emma opened her eyes. The commander was holding something out. A flask, silver, worn, familiar. Jonas's, Garrett said, gave it to me the night before he supposedly died in 1984. Said if he ever came back from the dead, I had to return it. If he didn't, I should give it to someone who'd earned it. He pressed it into her hand. You've earned it, Wraith. Emma turned the flask over. Engraved on the side, to the warriors who walk in shadows, may they find light. She unscrewed the cap, took a sip. Whiskey, smooth, expensive, the kind of thing Jonas would have saved for special occasions. To Jonas, Emma said, raising the flask. To Jonas, the three men echoed. They passed the flask around, a warrior's communion, older than religion, deeper than words. By the time it returned to Emma, the sun was cresting the horizon. Golden light spilled across the landscape, painting everything in shades of amber and fire. A new day, a new beginning. Emma looked out the window, watched Romania disappear behind them, thought about Jonas, about the years he'd spent hunting Archangel, about the price he'd paid, about the legacy he'd left behind. She touched the tattoo on her back, felt the weight of it, the responsibility, the promise, Wraith's legacy. Not just Jonas's story, hers now too. The helicopter banked west, toward home, toward debriefing, toward whatever came next. But for now, for this moment, Emma Kane allowed herself something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. 6 months later, Arlington National Cemetery was silent except for the wind through the trees and the distant sound of traffic on the Memorial Bridge. Emma stood before a headstone that was finally, officially, real. Jonas Wraith Kane, SEAL Team 6, 1936 to 2009. Honor, courage, commitment. The Navy had finally acknowledged his service, finally given him the recognition he'd been denied for 25 years. A posthumous Navy Cross sat in a display case in Emma's apartment. Jonas's name was now on the wall at the Naval Special Warfare Center. His story, or at least the parts that could be declassified, was being told. Garrett stood beside her, dress blues immaculate, medals gleaming in the autumn sun. Beside him, Mackenzie and Thorne, equally formal, equally respectful. He would have hated this, Emma said quietly. All the ceremony, all the attention. Probably, Garrett agreed, but he would have understood it. Legacy matters, remembering matters, making sure the next generation knows what came before. He paused. Speaking of which, I have something for you. He handed her a folder. Emma opened it, found orders. Assignment to the Naval Special Warfare Center. Instructor position, training the next generation of SEALs. You want me to teach? Emma asked. I want you to pass on what Jonas taught you. The Navy's officially opening SEAL training to women next month. They're going to need instructors who understand what it takes, who've been there, who've proven themselves. Garrett's voice was firm. You've proven yourself, Emma. Now help others do the same. Emma looked at the orders, thought about Jonas, about the hours he'd spent teaching her, about the patience, the precision, the unwavering belief that she could be more than the world expected. I'll do it, she said, but on one condition. Name it. No more secrets, no more black ops, everything by the book. I'm done operating in shadows. Garrett smiled. Jonas would approve. And yes, by the book, you have my word. Emma turned back to the headstone, placed her hand on the cold marble. I finished it, Grandpa. Holloway's dead. Brennan's dead. The archive is secure. Your name is clear. You can rest now. The wind picked up, rustling leaves, carrying the scent of autumn and change. Somewhere in that wind, Emma imagined she could hear Jonas's voice. Gruff, proud, telling her she'd done good, telling her the mission was complete, telling her to live now, to teach, to build instead of destroy, to be more than a weapon. Emma straightened, saluted the headstone. The three men beside her did the same. 4 warriors honoring a 5th, brotherhood that transcended death. They held the salute for a long moment, then dropped it in unison. Come on, Garrett said. First round's on me. We've got stories to tell and lies to compare. They walked toward the cemetery entrance. Behind them, the headstone stood silent and proud, a marker for a man who'd lived in shadows and died in light. As they reached the gate, Emma's phone buzzed, a text message from an unknown number. Well done, Emma. Jonas would be proud. But Archangel was bigger than Holloway and Brennan. The network survives, and it's coming for you. Watch your 6. A friend. Emma's blood ran cold. She showed the message to Garrett. His face went hard. Could be a bluff, he said. Someone trying to scare you. Or it could be the truth. Emma deleted the message, pocketed the phone. Either way, I'm ready. Jonas taught me to always be ready. Mackenzie leaned in. We've got your back, Wraith, whatever comes. Damn right, Thorne added. Emma looked at her team, her brothers. The men who'd fought beside her, bled with her, trusted her when trust was the hardest thing to give. Then let's go get that beer, she said. Because if someone's really coming for us, I want to face them with a clear head tomorrow. They walked out of Arlington together. 4 warriors bound by shared combat and darker bonds still. The sun was setting behind them, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire. Somewhere in the gathering dark, threats waited. Networks survived. Enemies plotted. But Emma Kane, Wraith, SEAL, granddaughter of ghosts, was no longer the hunted. She was the hunter, and she'd learned from the best ghost in the business. The mission was complete. The war had just begun, and this time, Emma was ready. Behind them, in the gathering dusk, a figure stood motionless between the headstones. Female, scarred, watching. She raised a phone, sent a single text. Phase 2, then she was gone, swallowed by shadows. Jonas's headstone remained, silent witness to promises made and kept, to legacies passed and carried forward, to wars that ended and wars that never would. The inscription gleamed in the fading light. Honor, courage, commitment. 3 words that meant everything, or nothing at all, depending on who was watching.